What does it mean to give everything you have to a thing and find it has not been enough? 25 centuries ago, in the city of Kampa, the principal city of the kingdom of Anga, there was a wealthy treasurer's son who had been raised so delicately that the soles of his feet had never touched bare earth. Soft, downy hair grew on them because they had never been worn. His name was Soṇa Koḷivisa. This story is preserved in the Soṇa Sutta, the 55th discourse in the 6th book of the Numerical Sayings, with the chapter on shoes in the Mahāvagga of the Vinaya and the verses Soṇa himself composed in the Theragāthā. It is one of the strangest stories of awakening in the canon, because what awakened Soṇa was not deeper effort, but a single question about a musical instrument he had played as a boy. To understand the question, you have to understand what those soft soles of his feet had walked. Kampa was a wealthy city on the river in eastern India. Its houses were tiled, its courtyards were paved, its trees were trimmed. Soṇa's father was a treasurer of the city. The household was the kind of household where a child was not set down on the floor. When Soṇa was small, he was carried everywhere. From his mother's lap to the cushion in the next room, from the cushion to the bath, from the bath to the bed. There were servants for the lifting. The floor of the room was tiled, and the cushions were silk, and the cushions were where his feet rested. He grew up that way, boyhood into youth. The soles of his feet, which had never known the rough earth, stayed soft. Soft as the inside of a hand. They were never bruised, they were never calloused, they were never pressed. The canon preserves this detail, that fine downy hair grew on the soles of his feet, because they had never been worn. He learned the verses of his caste. He learned to play the vana, the long-necked, stringed instrument his teacher placed in his hands when he was a boy. He played it well. He could feel, with the hand he had inherited, the moment a string came into the right tension. He took his place at his father's accounts. That was the life he was born into. A summons came from King Bimbisara of Magadha. The king had called the principal landowners of the surrounding kingdoms to assemble at Rajagaha. Soṇa's father was old, and Soṇa rode in his place, a young man of means, with the soft soles of his feet wrapped in silk slippers, on the back of a fine horse. After the king's business was finished, Bimbisara said to those who had come, "There is a teacher on Vulture Peak, in the hills outside the city. He is a man worth hearing. If you would go up to him, I will go with you." They went up. The teacher was sitting on the side of the peak in the late afternoon. The hills below him fell away into haze. The men of the kingdom sat down on the rough stones at the edge of the path. They listened. Soṇa heard the discourse. Something in him, the part that had played the lute, the part that had felt the tension of strings, cracked open. When the others rose to go down to the city, he went forward instead. He came to the teacher, and he asked plainly to be received. He was received. He took the saffron robe. He went to Stavana, the cool grove, the charnel ground outside Rajagaha where the dead were carried, and where the most disciplined of the new monks went to practice. It was not a pleasant place. The air was sweet with the bodies that had been brought there. The trees were thin. The cloister was a single long path of flagstones, swept clean each morning, that ran from the gate to the base of an old tree at the far end and back. Kankama, walking meditation. This was the practice Soṇa chose. He chose only this. He did not sit. He did not chant. He took the path of stones and he walked. The first night he walked from the rising of the moon to the falling of it. The stones were cool under the soft soles of his feet. He felt for the first time in his life the rough surface of the earth. By morning, the soles of his feet were broken. He did not stop. He went out the next morning and he walked. He walked at the slow, steady pace of Kankama. 5 steps forward, turn, 5 steps back. The stones of the cloister were cool in the dawn. By noon they were warm. By the heat of the afternoon they were burning. He walked on. By morning the stones were warm. By midday the stones were burning. By evening the stones were stained. The second day was the same. The third was the same. He did not sit. He did not chant. He took the bowl when it was passed to him, and he walked. By morning the stones were warm. By midday the stones were burning. By evening the stones were stained. The first week passed. The other monks at Sattavana saw him in the cloister at every hour they passed. Before dawn, walking. At the noon meal, walking. In the evening, walking. They began to speak of him among themselves. One of them, an older monk who had taken the robe 20 years before, said in the quiet of the meal hour, "Soṇa walks the cloister harder than any of us, and he is getting nowhere." The others were silent. None of them had said it. All of them had thought it. By morning the stones were warm. By midday the stones were burning. By evening the stones were stained. The second week passed, then the third. The cloister flagstones, pale gray at the start of the practice, darkened in the places where his feet turned at the ends of the path. The marks did not wash off. The next monsoon would take them, but the next monsoon was months away. Each night they were redder than the night before. Soṇa walks the cloister harder than any of us, and he is getting nowhere. By morning the stones were warm. By midday the stones were burning. By evening the stones were stained. It was at the end of the third week that Soṇa sat down at the edge of the cloister. The sun was setting. The stones at the place where he had turned were dark. His feet, when he set them in front of him on the bare ground, did not feel the ground. They had stopped feeling many days ago. He looked at his hands. His hands were the hands of a treasurer's son. They had counted gold. They had played the vena. They had been washed and oiled and not used for any rough thing. He thought then, the thought, "I am the most strenuous of those who strive. I have given to this practice every hour of these days. My feet are split open. The stones of the cloister are dark with my blood, and my mind is not free. There is wealth at my father's house in Kampa. I am his only son. The accounts are still mine to keep. I will go home, and I will keep them, and I will practice from there. There is no shame in a life of giving and good action lived outside the order. I am not made for this." He sat with the thought. The Buddha was on Vulture Peak. He knew the thought the way the Buddha knew the thoughts of the monks who were his. He left Vulture Peak, and he walked down through the hills, and he came across the long valley to Stavana, the cool grove, at the hour of evening. He came alone. He came across the swept ground at the entrance, past the old tree at the head of the cloister, to the place where Soṇa was sitting at the edge of the stones. He sat down on the bare ground beside him. For a long moment he did not speak. Then he said plainly, "Soṇa, did this thought come into your mind?" He named the thought back, the strenuous practice, the mind that was not free, the wealth at the Father's house, the way home. Soṇa was quiet. Then he said, "It did, honored sir." The Buddha said, "Soṇa, when you played the vana at home, were the strings tight?" Soṇa said, "Yes, honored sir. When the strings were too tight, the lute could not be played. The sound was thin and broken, and the strings cut against the wood." The Buddha said, "Were the strings loose?" Soṇa said, "Yes. When the strings were too loose, the lute could not be played either. The sound did not carry. The strings rattled in the frame. There was no tone in them." The Buddha said, "And when they were tuned in between, was the lute fit to be played?" Soṇa said, "Yes, honored sir. When the strings were tuned in between, neither too tight nor too loose, the lute was fit to be played. The sound was clean. The tone carried." The Buddha was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "It is the same with the practice, Soṇa. Energy too taut tips toward agitation. Energy too slack tips toward sloth. Find the even tension. Tune your faculties." Soṇa sat with this. He looked down at his feet, where the soft soles he had been born with had been ground against the cloister stones for 3 weeks. He looked at the cloister, where the dark places at the turn of the path had become his own marks, and he saw then what he had been doing. He had taken the practice as he had taken the lute when he was a boy, pulling at the strings until they rang. He had pulled and pulled and pulled, and the strings had cut. He had not been told that the lute was to be tuned. He had only been told that the lute was to be played. The Buddha was telling him now what he had not been told before. He set his hands on his knees. He said quietly, "Yes, honored sir. Were the strings tight? Were they loose? Were they tuned?" Soṇa did not go home. He stayed at Sattavana. He left off the killing pace. He walked the cloister, in the days that followed, at the tension of a string in tune. Not slack, not cutting. He sat. He chanted. He took the bowl when it was past. His feet healed in time. The downy hair on the soles never grew back. The soft skin never came back. The soles were calloused now. They were the soles of a monk who walked. He walked on them without hurting. The thing he had been killing himself to reach, the unshaken seeing, came to him, in time, in the quiet of the practice. The canon does not name the day. It says only that he attained it. Some weeks after this, the Buddha walked the cloister at Sattavana himself. He saw the dark places on the stones at the turns of the path. The blood had dried. The monsoon had not yet come. He called the monks of the place together. He looked at the cloister. He looked at the stones. He said plainly, "From this day, single-soled sandals are permitted to those who walk the path. That is the rule. It is preserved in the Vinaya, in the chapter on shoes. It is named for Soṇa's feet. A young man, whose feet had never walked the earth, who walked the cloister until the stones were dark, until the Buddha named the lute, and the strings were tuned in between, and the washed feet rested on cool stone.